We continue to preview the 2025 college football season. Our stop today is Georgetown, Kentucky, as we get to visit with the new head football coach for the Georgetown Tigers, Coach John Perin. Not new to the program, Coach. You've been the defensive coordinator there for a while, but you were announced back in December that you were taking over for Coach Oliver, who is keeping one of his two gigs that he had going into last year and working as the director of athletics there for the program. But first off, congratulations on your new opportunity. Talk about that.
Thank you, Joey. Yeah, it's been a little bit of a whirlwind. I'm extremely blessed and excited to be the head coach of Georgetown College. There's so much that comes with it. The expectations of our alum, our president, our athletic director, to continue the success we've had. It's one of those things that, I came here with Coach Oliver 3 years ago when he got the head coaching job, and you never take a job with thoughts that you'd one day become the head coach, especially when you're going to work for a guy that as successful as him. And, it was just right place, right time. And I think the job I did while I was here put me in a position to be considered. And, ever since it's happened, I've been, we walk through our building every single day. You kind of see the silhouette of a couple national championship trophies. So, yeah. There's motivation every single day when you walk in here, and I'm excited to be a part of Georgetown football.
Well, again, congratulations on the opportunity. And 26-8 in your run as the defensive coordinator there. So I know you're well familiar with the program. And I think in my time in talking about Georgetown, especially in the last 2 or 3 years, I mean, defense has come to the forefront. Not that there hasn't been fantastic offensive performance, because there has, and we'll talk about that a little bit later on. But I think we've talked about defense maybe even more. So I think you do put yourself in that position to, at least get the look. So I appreciate that you have the opportunity. Now, you're not going to be the DC this year, elevating linebackers coach Devin Gage into that position. I have to ask, are there some similarities in his defensive philosophy? Will we see something similar coming into 25?
Yes, we've got a great defensive staff, and I felt like, there's going to be a lot of continuity. I'm still going to be in that room. I would be lying to you if I'm not going to be heavily involved in the defensive side of the football. It's still going to look very, very similar. And, we've got Coach Gage, we've got Coach Grady, Coach Harmon, and myself. Have all worked together. Coach Gage joined us 2 years ago, so he's worked with me for 2 years, and the other two guys have worked with me for 3 years. I really was able to promote all three of them in different ways, and just needed somebody to kind of take care of everything that, I needed somebody thinking about our defense 24/7 like I was, where now I'm getting pulled in different directions as the head coach. So he was kind of the natural guy for that. And I think, him being in the center of the defense, being the linebackers coach, will help with our front and our secondary. But there'll be a lot of similarities. And I think too, I wanted there to be a different voice. When you're the head coach, you talk to the entire team. And then if you go step into the defensive room with our defensive players, I just wanted to be a different voice, just so they can hear different people speaking. And, but I think we've got a great staff on the defense, and I'm really excited that I was able to do that for really all three of those guys, and excited to continue to work with those guys.
Let's look back just a bit, Coach. 2024, 9-3 overall, another Mid-South championship, 6-0 in conference, an 8-game winning streak at one point in time, closing out the regular season with 7 consecutive wins. And then you get a victory over a very tough St. Thomas team. Yeah. Talk a little bit about 2024, and it was a successful ride for the most part.
Yeah, I mean, I think, the fun thing about college football is each year is different. I think we believed we were going to have another good team coming into the year. And defensively, when you got a guy, I know you're going to probably ask about him a little bit later, Chad Holleran, back, an All-American who's right there in the center of your defense. You feel pretty good about going into it. But I thought our team, we played in a bunch of really close games, which doesn't help, maybe your heart sometimes. And I probably have a little bit less hair and maybe a little bit more gray hair, but I think it really shaped our season. Was our guys were battle tested. We played in, I can't remember, maybe 7 or 8 one-score games. So when it came down to that St. Thomas game that you mentioned, we're leading by 7 points with about 9 minutes to go. That was just something our guys were used to. And we learned a lot about our team because of those close. We had some really close wins. We also had really close losses. So, and you go down and you play a team, an FCS opponent, and Alabama A&M, and have a chance to onside kick to go down and maybe score and get the 2-point and take that thing to overtime. So it was, I think what we learned about our team was, anywhere, anyone, anytime, any place, let's put the ball down and play. And we think we got a shot. And I think we got better each week. And we also knew, hey, if it's going to be close in the fourth quarter, we've been here, we've done it, we're not going to flinch. And we were able to close out a lot of those games because of the type of games we were playing in all season. So, and I think it definitely helped us, kind of close out the season again really strong and win the conference. And then we got a little break before we went into the playoffs. But our guys, I think, were ready for anything at that point.
It was one of the toughest schedules, if not the toughest schedule.
Yeah.
There's probably a very good argument to say it was the toughest schedule in the country last year. We're visiting now with John Perin, the new head football coach for the Georgetown Tigers, right here on Midwest Sports Net. And I encourage you, please take the time to like the video and subscribe to the channel. That always helps. We enjoy talking about small college sports and more throughout the Midwest and beyond. Coach, looking ahead now to 2025. Garrick Slunaker back, who, if he's the starter for you, would be starting in 4 years. Maybe not as many for his freshman year, but really has led the team well. I know I've used the term manage the team before, and I don't mean that to be any kind of derogatory statement. He's a great leader for your team, and it's, I'm sure, a positive with him coming back. Another positive with Darius Neal coming back. My goodness, I'm sure there are folks that are probably in the Mid-South and on your schedule going, Neal, really?
Yeah.
Another season, 1,300 plus yards last year, and you have a new offensive coordinator. You bring in Coach Coral to lead the way, and so that could be a different take on how those two guys perform. But I know there are more on the offense. Take us through the offense a bit.
Yeah, so you mentioned Garrick and 4-year starter, and what I talk about him is, look, this guy has been in our program now going on his 4th year. He's taken us to the national semifinals. He's taken to the national quarterfinals. He's 12-0 in the conference in the past 2 years. He's he was a newcomer of the year his freshman year in our league, I think there's a lot of weight that comes with being the quarterback at Georgetown College, and he's been able to shoulder it. And again, everybody wants that spot until they're there, and then you got a lot of weight on your shoulders, and he's been able to handle that. And I think what we're going to do offensively is going to help him with just being able to highlight maybe some of the things he does really well even better. So, but it also helps having a really good running game with Darius Neal, and I think that's where it's going to start with us is with him. We've got other guys. Luke Olive is coming back for another 5th year at tight end. And he had a huge spring and a guy that's really stepped up in a major leadership role. I just want to go back to Darius real quick, talking about leadership. The guy is a football guy. Not only is he an excellent All-American running back, but seeing him lead and help develop our younger running back room and really the entire offense, I think has been really fun to watch. We'll probably be a little bit, have some youth on our offensive line, but even, Darius, working with those guys and helping develop those guys has been huge. And then I think our receivers are really poised for a huge year. Chandler Godby is a guy that's played a lot of football for us that I'm really excited about. Jamarcus Robinson's another guy that really came onto the scene last year, had a huge game against Pikeville, had a huge game versus Alabama A&M. And there's a bunch of other guys in that room. Clayton Davis, I think, is another guy that has had a huge spring off season and really, took what he did last year and has really propelled himself in a positive direction. And then you mentioned our offensive coordinator, Caleb Coral. Caleb's a guy I met, kind of just out recruiting. He was at Mount St. Joe, which is probably about an hour from here. We got to know each other kind of through recruiting the same area and just really, liked what I heard when we spoke. And then when I had a chance to hire an OC, he was really one of the first guys I thought of. And I think what he's done is to come in here and look at what we've done really well over the past 3 years, and take that and then build around some things we need to improve on. And it's been exciting to see our offense, just play with, a level of confidence and an expectation that, that they can be super explosive and have a ton of success as well, and not just rely on one guy like a Darius Neal. I think that's what we've really tried to work on this spring, is try to find ways to distribute the football in a bunch of different people's hands, so that you can't just load the box against a really good running back. And sometimes that's going to happen. We're still going to hand it off, and he's still going to get his yards, but we want to make it as challenging as possible on the defense. And just coming from defensive perspective, with myself, I mean, they challenge you in a lot of different ways. Our offense challenges you in a lot of different ways with, just formations and putting people in different positions. And you really got to be ready for everything they're going to throw at you. So it's been exciting spring. I'm excited for our guys, to continue to develop over the summer, and fall camp is going to be fun as well. So
I'm looking forward to watching how this offense does progress over the years. Now, or over the season, over the games in the season. Coach, I again have talked about defense. You mentioned Chad Holleran. I was going to mention Chad Holleran. I don't think you could talk about the Tigers' defense in recent years without mentioning Chad Holleran. But he's expended all of his eligibility, I'm sure, to the again pleasure of other folks in the Mid-South. And
we look to try to find ways to get him back, but they said he's got to graduate. So,
well, good for him, and to have an opportunity to move on in life. But then the defense does move on as well. And of course, we talked about Coach Gage coming in and the elevation of the staff there. Tell us a little bit about what the players on the field are going to look like, and did they perform well for you in the spring?
Yeah, so replacing Chad, I mean, and one thing we talked to our team about, anytime there's a really good player who graduates, and that's going to happen at a place like Georgetown every single year, is you don't try to replace the player, right? You can't replace one player with another player. You have to find ways to replace the production that player had, right? And that's got to be spread out through multiple people. And I would say one of the areas where I feel really good of, our staff feels really good at coming out of spring practice, is our defensive line. I think that we've got a veteran group led by a senior, Jacob Harmon. He's a defensive tackle, two-time first-team all-conference player for us, and he's kind of really helped, build a culture in that room along with Coach Harmon, and an expectation level of just being dominant up front. And we got guys, like Jamel Smith. Reese Brown is coming back for his 5th year. And we got 2 edge pieces that I think had a huge spring in Jackson Geiler and Tyler Snell. And then there's some young guys that had really good springs that are going to get a chance. And we're excited about those guys. The linebacker room is, again, you can't replace that guy, but I think we've got some guys that have elevated their level of play because they've been around a type of player like Chad Howler in the past 2 or 3 years with him. So, Bryson Hollison's one of the guys that has played a bunch of football for us. He's kind of been banged up with injuries through last year, but he's a dynamic player. Clayton Melcher was a guy that has played a ton of football for us. And then we had a young guy, TJ Buckman, played a little bit last year, had a good spring. And then really Blake Hobbs is another guy. So, I mean, that's just kind of maybe the guys that jump off my mind to me, but we've got a lot of other guys in that room that are extremely hungry and competitive. Understand there's opportunity to get on the field with trying to find a space on our team, and they're it's a really competitive and talented group. And again, I just lean back on they've seen what the best is, right? And they've got to practice with it every single day. And Chad Holler, they got to see the way he prepared for games, the way he prepared in practice. And that's the one thing I think that I'll always remember about Chad. Yeah, great player, but man, he loved to practice. Like you couldn't keep him off the practice field. So our guys have seen a ton of that in that room, that linebacker room, and really our entire defense. So, we're hoping that they remember those things as they prepare themselves. The secondary, I think, again, an area where we've been strong. The guy back there for us is John Carter Myers. He's going to be going into his senior year as well. He's a local guy. His dad's a high school coach. He's extremely, because I think, again, you got a guy whose dad's a coach. I think he wants to coach. So we've got almost like an additional coach on the field with him to help our guys get lined up back there. And we return some other good pieces. Trayvon Allen at our star position. Javen Martin started every game as a true freshman at corner for us last year. So there's some pieces that return. And again, I think there's what we try to tell guys is, especially in recruiting, is we're going to go out and recruit the best and put you all in the same room together. And this is across our whole team. And iron does sharpen iron, right? So you're going to get better every single day by being around really great football players. And then when it's your turn to play, or you've earned the right to play, you've got to have faith in that, because you've been tested every single day in practice. So I'm excited to see really where the rest of the team develops at this fall camp. I mean, I think everyone's happy coming out of spring, but I really like our coaching staff's done a great job. Our players are really hungry, and again, I think the success we've had has almost made our guys more hungry, because they want to be the guys on the field making those plays in those games that matter, especially late in the year. So
I understand. Well, again, looking forward to seeing that side of the ball as well. Coach, on a personal note, I've been able to ask a number of coaches this summer, and I'm going to continue with you, because I know it's a decade that's getting a little bit more in the rearview mirror. But I have to ask, on a personal note, favorite 80s song or 80s band?
Yeah, so we talked about this a little bit earlier. I was born in the 80s, 84, so this is a tough one for me, but I did some quick Google search. I Have a Tiger by Survivor. You can't go wrong. Got the tiger picture in the background. Great song. I might have to add it to my my pregame music for this year.
That may show up in the workout room. I can't imagine. I mean, a song like that, especially at Georgetown, to not be out in the workout room. So
I'm sure it is. Yeah,
that'll get you going. Get some Rocky, background too. All right, Coach. The season gets underway August 30th against Pikeville, a game from last year as well, and Pikeville, a playoff team. You have Rio Grande. That's your first road trip, and a new program in the NAIA. Overall, the new football program there. Also, right. Pre-conference schedule, you get to go to St. Thomas, and I'm sure they remember you from last year. So a little bit of familiarity outside of the conference, and then, of course, a bye week, and then Mid-South Conference play starts with Lindsey Wilson at home. So a challenging schedule again.
Yeah, I mean, our belief is, again, some of you don't control your conference schedule, and even that out of conference with the Sun Conference, we don't control. But we're always going to try to compete against the best. You're trying to prepare your team to play against the best teams in the country every year, right? And play deep into the playoffs. And we've been fortunate enough to see the number one team in the country the past 2 years. 2 years ago, we played Northwestern in the semifinals. They were number one at the time, reigning national champion. We played Kaiser this past year, was number one in the country, reigning national champion. So, for us to beat those teams or surpass those teams, you've got to prepare your team and play really good competition. And we're not going to shy away from it ever. It's the DNA of our football program. And again, I think we got a great schedule. I think Pikeville does an outstanding job. Rye will be a great game just because it's another local opponent. And then I think, the crossover games with the Sun Conference are always going to prepare you for, again, that matchup with St. Thomas, I assume, would be two top 10 opponents and early in the year. And again, it's you want to test your team, and they're very well coached. They're going to have great players. So it's a chance to go down there and really, kind of see where your team's at before you head into the Mid-South Conference play. And again, I think our conference is one of the toughest in the country, and we know we're going to get everybody's best shot there. But I think our schedule's set up to where it's going to get us ready for the Mid-South and really prepare us to hopefully make another deep run.
Coach, absolutely. And the Tigers are a team that it's always fun to watch, always fun to follow, and we are definitely going to be following Georgetown this season. Coach John Perin, the new head football coach for the Georgetown Tigers. Thank you so much, sir, for taking time with us today here as we preview 2025 and get ready for the fall. It's going to be here before we know it. Looking forward to football once again. Thank you, sir, for your time.
Thank you, Joey.